Come see us on tour. We're going to be in Baltimore, Hartford, Connecticut, Syracuse, Atlantic City, Levittown, New York, Cohoes, New York, and Providence, Rhode Island. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. Geiger Capital tweeted out, Scott Bessent told us today what many have been saying for 3+ years now. The real U.S. economy, the private sector, has been weak under the surface and barely growing. The headline economy is simply being sustained by unsustainable fiscal policy. And so Walter Bloomberg had tweeted out that Bessent said, our goal is to re-privatize the economy after Biden. Elon Musk responded to this guy's tweet saying 100%. And then, like the 800,000 government jobs added in 2021, 25. No, for some reason, I don't have your tweet on here. But you tweeted out, I don't know what happened to it, but you tweeted out that Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, well, what was your response to this? Tell people, Ed.
Basically, when you're taking away the fiscal stimulus and you hope to eventually resurface those savings into the private economy, and the idea is to get, that money spent in the private sector would produce economic growth that's greater than what the government's yielding right now, which isn't much. The problem is it's going to take time for their plans to gel on the other side. So there's this valley in between. And because what kept the stock market and the GDP numbers afloat was fiscal dominance, by rejiggering that, I said, what Scott Bessent just told you is that he doesn't care about the stock market, and he shouldn't. He shouldn't.
What? So explain. How can you explain it so I understand? Why shouldn't he care about the stock market?
Because he needs to get the fiscal house in order. And if the stock market is, look, there's different financial asset classes. Everyone's competing for a share of the dollar pie. If we go into an economic recession, people will sell stocks and naturally buy safe Treasury bonds. It helps him out. So if he wants to refinance the debt out longer term, he actually wants a recession. So by him saying he wants to restructure the economy to the private sector, what he's saying is we're going to hopefully cut deficits, and we're going to cut the waste, and we're going to rejuvenize the private sector. The problem is that's not going to happen overnight. That takes time. And all these announcements that are being made about Apple bringing back manufacturing jobs to the U.S., those are just announcements, and they take time before they even break ground and hit the economy. So there's going to be a deep valley. So that's why I think he's signaling good luck on the stock market. That's my interpretation of it.
So he's, well, that's quite a thing, right? For a Treasury Secretary not to care about the stock market, isn't that?
No, that used to be the way it was.
Really?
Same with the Fed. I mean, I could be wrong. Ed might have another opinion. I don't mean to speak like I'm a know-it-all, but to be objective about interest rates and employment, you can't care about the stock market, which was really the mantle of the Fed as far as I've studied it.
I will agree with Paul. The stock market has been a dirty little national security problem. And I'll tell you why. A lot of the tax receipts come from ever-increasing stock markets and option packages, and people getting the wealthy getting wealthier, liquidating some of their holdings and paying taxes on that. That is a big part of the tax receipts we get. And what Scott Bessent is signaling is high streets days are numbered, and we're going to try. The key operative word is try. Whether they're successful, we don't know.
Yeah. My drill sergeant once beat it into me when I told him I was going to try, and he was poking his fingers into my chest, and the brim of his hat was banging into my forehead, and he said, "Airman, you're just telling me you're going to try, so when you fail later, you can tell me you tried." Well, yeah, try.
So it's good. So it's a good thing. I mean, I'm such a financial illiterate, but so you're saying it's a good thing that the Treasury Secretary doesn't care about the stock market.
It'll be very painful now.
Yeah,
it'll be painful, but long term, that's what he's signaling. That's how I interpreted it, and that's the only way this can happen. If he wants to term out the debt, you need lower interest rates. Lower interest rates are going to come from fiscal dominance receding, and that's what's been holding up the economy, and stock prices and corporate profits should follow, and they will. And look, I think I've been signaling the Trump administration, if they don't get a recession, it's proof positive they've betrayed the middle class. That's my proof. No recession, and they keep accelerating this deficit, and it's the rich get richer and the middle guy gets no job. Yeah. That, to me, is a betrayal. And that's how I'm framing it.
So you're saying that if we have a recession and that the Trump administration and Scott Bessent allow a recession to happen, that's actually long-term a good sign?
Yeah, because home prices are too high. No affordability. No, right now the real estate market is literally dead. There's no transactions. Housing starts are plummeting. New home starts are plummeting. New building permits are plummeting. And that's because no one's buying. The transaction volume in the real estate sector is very bad. And home prices, so there's only one way this can go. Home prices go lower. That's actually, it hurts people who hold mortgages, and some over-leveraged people are going to get wiped out. Cry me a river. But for the average millennial, and this is about generational wealth, and most of the boomers hold the real estate. Now they're 70 plus. You know, this is a good thing for generational passing, to get lower prices. And that would then eventually start some green shoots, but it's going to be very painful in the interim. Now, if they accelerate the government spending and we get the second derivative going back to the Biden administration, it's the same old Yahoo nonsense, and the real economy is going to just continue to falter. And Paul and I talked about, you know, eventually you get 50% inflation, and then you have a revolution. So they have a choice to make. And
so, what's your guess the choice they're going to make? I think they're going to keep printing. But what do you think?
I think we're going to get a recession, and what I'm seeing, the bond market will tell me. If the bond market starts to go up in yields again, then the Trump betrayal is in. If the bond markets, which lead the Fed, start going lower, the smart money's figured something out.
And when you say fiscal dominance, can you explain what that means?
So let's go back. I looked at the 90s. I think the total GDP, about 15% of it was the government. At the height of COVID, it was 43%. I think it's in the 30s now. That's fiscal dominance.
So I mean so the federal government being responsible for a 30 or
ever growing share of the economic pie.
Okay.
Yeah. And may I just create one thing that Harry homeowner might care about too, is when people wonder, well, how does the market keep going up? What Ed is talking about is a big part of the money swirling and changing hands throughout the economy. And two things that the market gets every month that it wouldn't be getting without the money printing are 401k contributions. And that might not be an enormous amount of money, but if I blow a tiny amount of air into a balloon, it shifts shape. And if you thought of the market, which this isn't financial advice, and I'm not a trained economist, but if you thought of the market or any market as a vessel, if you shove volume into it, it expands. It doesn't really care where the volume's coming from. Print all the money you want. The market doesn't care. But as he was explaining earlier, that profits and stock market appreciation are helping supplement the economy at large due to tax revenue, and you quit the money printing, not only do you not get the tax revenue, you're going to start getting a lot more layoffs and a lot more bankruptcies, which then causes less 401k contributions to come into the market, and it falls even lower. Okay. It's all hooked together. And there's no way to have this thing without sacrificing something.
The only game in town has been the federal government, and we're in the process of slowly removing that, and we'll see what happens. But, Scott Bessent said something else. He also pointed to the valuation of the stock market and said it's quite high historically at valuations that are very risky. So, look, he's not giving you investment advice, but he's telling you beware.
Beware of a stock market crash.
No, not a crash. Just like, starting today, don't put a new dollar in the stock market. If you're already in.
Warren Buffett is 80% cash or 90 or 70% cash. So what does that say?
Yeah.
Because he's an activist in a way. He's actually putting his money on the line. And the secretaries and chairmen are telling you about what they may or may not do with policy that may or may not affect what you're doing. Buffett's breadcrumbs, I read them as, and he saw this coming a while ago, is we are now at the top. He doesn't have to nail the top, right? There's no bell that rings at the top, and no one gives you a trophy in your front yard for nailing the bottom either. He's always said to the individual investor, take big swaths out of the middle. So if he's left early and the market has another 10, 20% to go before it rolls over, he doesn't care because he's profitable. You can't go broke taking a profit. It'll be all the others that continue to sit in their lazy boy waiting for a phone call from their retail rep that it's time to go. And I don't know if they make those calls.
Generally speaking, no.
Our sponsors, Colonial Metals Group, helped me with my goal of protecting my financial future. Being at the whim of the stock market or the current administration doesn't make me feel safe or secure, but having a self-directed IRA where I can safely store gold and silver, assets that have stood the test of time, no matter what the economy or the government policies are, makes sense to me. Colonial Metals Group has helped me create a self-directed IRA where I can have direct access to my assets. Let the team of experts at Colonial Metals Group help you protect your family's future. Their level of professionalism and ability to listen make it easy for you to learn everything you need to know about preserving all you've worked for. Maybe you're just getting started, or maybe you're already in a 401k or an IRA, or you're thinking about your parents' retirement. Regardless, Colonial Metals Group can help. We put together a special offer for our audience. Click on the link in the description below or call our special 800 number and you can receive a safe and up to $7,500 in free silver. That number is 888-910-1419. We love working with Colonial Metals. I chose them when I purchased my gold and silver for my retirement. No matter who you choose to purchase precious metals from, make sure you know the fees up front and what their markup is, and make sure you're getting a competitive price. Come see us on tour. We're going to be in Baltimore, Hartford, Connecticut, Syracuse, Atlantic City, Levittown, New York, Cohoes, New York, and Providence, Rhode Island. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.